Let's talk about a man, an Irish man from Galway, who grew up in Boston and settled in New York. A man who was famous for his ability to play the Uilleann pipes, a renowned vaudeville star and a pioneer in the early recording industry. He was an entrepreneur, taking mail orders from customers around the United States and recording each tune onto wax cylinders, one by one. Something that was essentially a first for that time outside of the big businesses. But not only was he a performer, a businessman, he was a preserver of music as well, which we'll uncover all about in this video. So make yourself comfortable and get ready to explore the fascinating journey of Patsy Touhey. Patsy Touhey was born Patrick J. O'Toole in 1865 in Cahertinny, not too far from Lochrain, County Galway. He was born into a proper musical family. His father, James, as well as his grandfather and two of his uncles, they were all Uilleann pipers, so from an early age, music was just right there for him. But when Touhey was just about 3 years old, around 1868, the family emigrated to the United States. Now, I couldn't find any exact reason as to why they chose to emigrate, right? But my best guess is just the same as everyone else, a desire for a better life, a better future, as with thousands of others who emigrated in those years. But never mind moving away from your home. Not long after arriving and settling in Boston, his father, his teacher, passed away. Despite the tragic loss, he still stayed close to the music, carrying on in his father's footsteps. He began studying under one of his father's students, Bartley Murphy. As the years went by and the music progressed, Touhey eventually made his way to New York. It was here that he crossed paths with John Uilleann, another piper from Galway. Now, John Uilleann here, he'd been playing in a Bowery music hall, and this was the starting point really for Touhey stepping into American theatre and vaudeville circuits. From here anyway, this was around when Touhey adopted that name over his birth name, O'Toole. He ended up teaming up with John Uilleann and he went on the road with Harrigan's Double Hibernian Company, a travelling troupe that featured variety entertainment alongside a painted Hibernian panorama. Now, what was this? Let's try and get a little bit of a better image of this. In the late 19th century, before motion pictures were ever invented, these moving panoramas were like those massive continuous canvas paintings wound between two giant vertical rollers. As the canvas moved slowly, it gave the illusion of something moving through a landscape. Touhey and Uilleann were central to this Irish-themed panorama act, along with Jerry and Nellie Cohen, and these are the parents of the legendary Broadway star George N. Cohen. They were playing the traditional tunes, acting out comedic sketches and the likes, essentially bringing their audience, who were mostly Irish immigrants, on a fun and nostalgic tour of the Ireland that they had remembered. And now I had stumbled across something though in reading about this bit, that Touhey at least got a bit of criticism for messing about with the Irish stereotypes. As you can imagine, the good old Irish stereotypes are good crack all in all. I absolutely love them. Bit of a side note here, but Garen Noon, I think he's the master of it when it comes to cracking these jokes. If you haven't seen his stuff, you should go and check it out. He's a fierce protector of the old potato, and his music is class as well. That's all I'll say about it anyway. So yeah, some of the broader Irish community there, they were really pushing back on these acts, right? How to say, they felt like they were being demeaning and reducing Irish music to a lower class folk music rather than classical art. Now, I can see both sides of this again, right? Touhey was primarily a performer, and he had an audience as well, so he had to cater for them to take care of himself, essentially. Like, imagine paying a ticket for a comedy or slash nostalgic trip down memory lane and then not getting what you paid for. You'd leave and never come back. His career would be over in an instant. But yeah, tell me what you think about it anyway down in the comments. Do you think he deserved the slight heat over it, or do you think it's all fair? But anyway, whilst this vaudeville era was going on, he ended up marrying a woman called Mary May Gillen around 1905. She actually ended up becoming an integral part of his act as well. So at this point then, their typical show would go on as before, but at the end, the grand finale would be his virtuoso Uilleann piping, accompanied by Mary's dancing. Now, I don't know about you, but I would absolutely love to see one of these today. Like some of the questionable movies being produced nowadays for millions, and somehow making its way into the cinema, right? Bring back these acts. Hey, I'd love to go see one, like stand-up comedy mixed with music and dance. But let's take a few steps back from here. We were around 1905 there when he married Mary, but we actually want to go back to around 1893. Here he was invited to perform as part of an Irish cultural display at the Chicago World's Fair. This was a huge turning point in his life and career, because it was between his performances at the fair that Touhey most likely had his first encounter with the Thomas Edison's wax cylinder phonograph. 'Tis a mouthful, that, hey. The tunes as we know it were passed on for generations, chopped and changed through the oral tradition. Names were forgotten, melodies were improvised. When attempts were made to notate tunes, it was usually just the bare bones of the tune, the core of it, without any of the style of the musician in it themselves, without their unique ornamentation thrown in most cases. But the phonograph changed absolutely everything. You could literally capture a performance there and then another person could relive that exact performance as it was supposed to be heard. In the early 1900s, commercial record companies like Edison, Columbia, and later Victor did want ethnic and traditional music, but their business model was to pay a musician a tiny flat fee for a recording session, and then the company kept all the profits for themselves. Edison approached Touhey with a contract. Imagine now he could record loads of tunes and preserve them forever. But he didn't exactly do that. Well, I mean, he kinda did, but he politely gave them the metaphorical middle finger. And then you know what he did? He bought his own phonograph from the Edison company and recorded the tunes himself and set up his own mail order business. Touhey, being a shrewd businessman, making good money in vaudeville, realised that handing over his music for pennies made no sense. Honestly, that all sounded like the opening plot of that Facebook movie. In May 1901, he officially launched his independent mail order business by taking out advertisements in the Irish World. It was a simple business model, but highly effective, and the likes that hadn't been seen before throughout those years anyway. Now, I found that obviously a few large businesses were doing stuff kind of like this, but for an independent businessman like Touhey, and even for the likes of Irish music, this was a first. So you can send away for a catalogue of 150 Irish airs, jigs, reels, hornpipes. Each recording was either $1 or $10 for a dozen. Now, I did a quick request there on Google to find out how much is that in today's money. Thereabouts $38 for one recording, or $380 for 12. He still had found a willing audience, and he had found himself with a fair few orders to fulfill, in a way preserving many tunes of traditional Irish music for those years. But one thing to mention here is the sheer physical effort put into doing this. It's not as easy as to say where, not that recording music is easy, but where you record your own music and you throw it up online and you give someone else a digital promotion code and loads of people can download them, right? It's not like that. Obviously, if someone did order a dozen tunes, he had to actually sit down and record 12 complete live performances into the phonograph before boxing them up and shipping them out. Imagine having to do that today. It sounds ridiculous. Re-record your band playing a song that you've recorded each time someone wants to buy a CD. But how many were recorded? Nobody really knows. As far as I can find, there's no quarterly KPI results for his ad conversion rate or like his production hours versus revenue or something like that. Now, I am joking, I didn't actually go and search for that stuff, but honestly, it would have been cool to actually know. But what we can assume is that he had his ads posted there for years in papers like Chicago Citizen and the Irish World. So, along with the price tag off the tunes and the cost going into recording them, his profit margins as well would have been fairly high. Along with his other ventures that we talked about at the beginning of the video, he didn't solely rely on the sales of these. Now, Francis O'Neill as well, the chief of police in Chicago, was a friend, acquaintance, a fan of Touhey's. O'Neill had purchased a few and had shipped batches of them back to Ireland as well, to County Clare and elsewhere. So there was a demand for them, and while preserving may not have been the top priority, the fact that these were out there in circulation in high numbers meant that you can listen to these 100-year-old recordings today, but you can also listen to considerably more tunes online, which I'll have links in the description for you to listen to as well. So from that 1893 Chicago's World Fair I mentioned earlier on, at the time Captain Francis O'Neill was ascending the ranks of the police force, the famous police force, a lot of whom were Irish and had helped him collect the tunes that you can see in O'Neill's Music of Ireland. And he built up quite the collection as well. He wasn't just hoarding them though, like you do with those plastic shopping bags in a random drawer in your kitchen, or like that box that you have in your house filled with wires you might need someday. But there is a heavier, sadder side to this story regarding where that massive collection actually lived. In 1904, O'Neill's 18-year-old son Rogers tragically died of spinal meningitis. Out of respect for his grieving wife, O'Neill completely stopped playing music in his home. Instead, he moved the phonograph and his entire collection of wax cylinders to the house of his good friend, Sergeant James Early, and that is where he kept the music alive. He was trying to use his network anyway to try and elevate Touhey's reputation among scholars. In 1907, O'Neill sent a Christmas present to his colleague, Dr. Hennebury, in the lovely County Waterford. In that box were some Edison phonograph records that included Touhey playing the Shaskeen reel. It was this exact gift that prompted the glowing review: "The 5 by Touhey are the superior limit of Irish pipering. If things were as they ought to be, he should be installed as Professor of Music in a national university in Dublin." But it's really interesting to see the difference in preservation of music at this point with these two men. While O'Neill was focused on categorization, order and rules, and to set on paper the tunes at a point despite the slippery oral tradition, Touhey's wax cylinders captured the tunes as they actually were, including all the imperfections and added extras that made it his style. The contrast is amazing when reflecting on that point. For example, when O'Neill's transcriber published Shaskeen Reel, the ornamentation was stripped away to the bare bones of the tune. To truly understand his sound, you have to look at his instrument. His pipes were unique, made by the Taylor brothers in Philadelphia. They were built louder to help them pierce through the noise of a loud American vaudeville stage. He was left-handed as well, so naturally they'd be mirrored, essentially from your usual set. But also he replaced the middle drone with a single keyed regulator to sound an E note, allowing him to perform complex variations that would be impossible on standard instruments. Now, his actual Uilleann pipes, according to Wikipedia, are still going around today, apparently owned by Sean McKiernan, but the link to see them has been broken or taken down, so I'm not 100% sure on that one. There was supposed to be a video showing these pipes being played, but do tell me in the comments what you think about all of this. Are the pipes still going around, and can they be seen to this day? I'm really curious to know about that. Patsy Touhey passed away in the Bronx early 1923. Now, in those final years of his life, Touhey actually witnessed the dawn of the modern 78 RPM disc recording technology, which was starting to replace his familiar, famous wax cylinders. He only managed to record 3 sides in this new format before his death, but still the recordings he left behind from both eras captured a technical genius and immense virtuosity that continue to influence Uilleann pipers today. From my take on it all, I essentially see an early day solo performer who just excelled in the United States and knew their audience in a similar way the Clancy brothers did half a century later. He was a huge part of the early days of Irish music. And the criticism as well that I mentioned earlier on for leaning into the stereotype, the criticism is always welcome, but at the end of the day, it's usually only the opinion of a few. That's the way I see it anyway. But let me know what you think. And as well, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. You can join the channel as well for access to a few Irish tune tutorials and a members section on our Discord channel too, as well as a 10% discount on all products on the shop. Be sure to have a look when you can. A huge shout out to all of the people who have supported the channel over the last year, and also a warm welcome to our new members: Danny McKist, Carol Eames, Magsland, Shears Eddie, and Terence O'Dwyer. Thanks a million for joining, and I'm so glad to have you all here. But look, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great week. Slán go fóill. Cheers.